Thanks for joining us today. It would have been good to go around and find out where everyone is dialing from. I want you to please welcome Richard, welcome Catherine, and welcome Claudine. Bookie's unable to join us tonight. It's Black History Month and she's got a few speaking engagements, but you'll definitely see her at the retreat. So please welcome Richard, please welcome Catherine, and please welcome Claudine. I hope your mics are, I think you can unmute yourself, can you?
Yeah, I've unmuted.
Right.
Thank you, Aaron.
Good stuff. Hi, Claudine. Good to see you. As always, Richard, good to see you. And Catherine, good to see you. Good stuff. So everyone, here are my guests. I've got Richard. Richard is based here in the United Kingdom. Claudine is based here in the United Kingdom. Catherine used to be based in the United Kingdom before she decided to disappear on us and move back to Western Africa. So let me get all of them to introduce themselves. I'll start with Catherine and then Claudine and then Richard. So over to you, Catherine.
All right. How long do we have to introduce ourselves?
How long do you want?
Oh, well, okay. I'll just say a very quick hello and then I can share my story later. So I'm Catherine. I work and I live in Ghana. I've been in Ghana this is my 10th year. I can't believe it. I made it 10 years. So I'm a veteran. And as you can tell, I used to live in England and I worked at several multinational companies. So that's it. I run my own businesses, but that's me for a nutshell. I'll leave that and I'll share my story later when the other speakers have introduced themselves.
All right, good stuff. Let's go to Claudine.
Hi, Aaron. Thank you so much for having me on your platform, and welcome to all of the viewers who have tuned into this call. So my name's Claudine, and for the last 25 years, I've been running a multi-award-winning social enterprise called DJ's Community Services. So I spend my time with my team. I have around 120 staff. I spend my time managing the business as well as looking after my family. I have 2 teenage children. Sorry, they're not teenagers, they're in their 20s. They wouldn't be very happy with me if I said this. They're both at university one's doing economics and politics and the other one is doing public health. And my husband and I are having a fabulous time as semi-empty nesters.
You look good for your age, for somebody who's
Thank you very much.
Above teenage kids. I don't know. I don't know if it's the drinks I see you drink every morning that makes that happen. I've tried it. It doesn't seem to work for me, but it'll be a prayer point. Let's go to Richard. Richard, please introduce yourself.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me on, and good to see you guys and to meet everybody. My name's Richard Tiedemann. I'm based here in London, England. I'm a serial entrepreneur. And my experience of entrepreneurialism is a series of failures with the odd success. And I think a lot of these talks, people make it sound like it's a series of successes, but actually, I think, you break things more often than you mend things with entrepreneurialism. I have 3 children. I have one now in full-time employment. She's working for a music company. Then I have a son in Spain who's currently on a gap year. And then a daughter who's just taking her A-levels. I started out in media, went into digital, and now I'm actually in advisory and fundraising for people. So it's a very interesting sort of journey that I've had. So I'm really excited about the conference that we're having, and thank you so much for inviting me to come along.
Thank you very much. So first question for everybody, really. When you heard Rejuvenate for 2020, what comes to mind for you? So let's start with Richard.
Well, I do think that if you're going to set out for a brand new year, unless you set some specific goals, unless you have specific objectives, perhaps only 1, 2, or 3, if you can focus on those, you can prevent yourself from getting distracted, and you can actually just decide and do to travel on those targets, then the chances of you succeeding are much greater than if you set a whole stack of goals and just kind of scattergun and spray and pray as best as you possibly can to hit them. So when you say Rejuvenate 2020, I think it's about us coming aside it's refreshing each other so that we are refreshed, but then also to just set some goals that we can all just focus our target on and just see if we can score a couple of bullseyes next year, and just move into the next level for each one of us.
Good stuff. Let me hear from Catherine and then Claudine. Catherine. So let me put it this way, Catherine, what made you want to come all the way from Ghana to want to add value to people at Rejuvenate for 2020?
Wow. Okay. Well, when I heard Rejuvenate for 2020, for me, just like Richard said, it's about, you know, setting some goals, etc. But what I thought that the perspective that I could provide is, I've been in corporate, and I also run my own businesses. And for me, it really was just a time for me to just really come and share my experiences and some of the tools that I have learned that have helped me, because I have been through certain particular challenges which are quite different that you would experience in your part of the world. So I just believe that my perspective would really help add value to others.
Good stuff. And Claudine?
Same question.
Yes.
Same question. So when I think about Rejuvenate, it really just makes me think of refreshing, reviving, re-energizing. And I think the timing is really, really quite pertinent. We're getting ready. We're on the cusp of a brand new decade. And one of the things I hear people say a lot, especially in my line of work, I also do consultancy for partners and pre-startups and a lot of work around personal development and leadership training. And one of the things I hear the most is people say, oh, I'm going to wait until the end of the year. And at the beginning, on the 1st of January, I'm going to do this, 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 and this. But what I think Rejuvenate does, it calls us to a place in terms of our mindset, and causes us to think, look, the shift doesn't have to wait until a particular day, date, or location. The shift starts in your mind, first of all. The shift starts with how you think, how you feel, how you move, how you embody the vision that you're trying to work towards. And that actually needs to start now. Why do we have to wait until the 1st of January? So one of the things that really kind of called me, that grabbed my attention, as well as the title Rejuvenate, is just the opportunity to share. I think it was something that Richard said about his series of failures. And when I think about where I am in life, in business, it wasn't because I had a magic tool, or, you know, is it Neo on the Matrix, the red pill or the blue pill? It wasn't anything like that. It was just my mind that says, you have to take the rough with the smooth. And it's in those rough moments that you learn to build the muscle of your mind, the muscle of your emotion, the muscle of your physicality, in the same way that we do when we go to the gym. It's not that 70 kilos. And I'm only saying 70 kilos because that's where I am right now. I can do 70 kilos, round of applause. It's not because 70 kilos gets lighter, but it's because I get stronger. So Rejuvenate really speaks to that part of my being that I really want to be able to share with others. The cycle of failures and how those failures have allowed us to get stronger mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. And that's what helps us to be able to stand and keep on going. It doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. It doesn't mean that you don't feel pain. But what it means is that you get stronger through the process. Rejuvenate.
Right. Good, thanks for sharing. And I'm just going to stay on the point that you and Richard have slided into somehow. So I'm running a series at the moment on Facebook over the next, well, I think we've gone 5 weeks now, and it talks about rethink failure, and we're looking at guaranteed ways to fail, what failure is, and there's this thing about stories, and that's why I handpicked the speakers for Rejuvenate, because there are people who have a wealth of stories of things that have happened to them, and stories of failure that they can now turn around now and say, this failure led me to this. Are you able to share one of such failures or experiences that people can just a tiny bit, because I know at Rejuvenate you're going to be sharing a whole lot of them, and even just knowing you very well, I know some of your personal struggles, and I see you every day I mean, every time I look at your WhatsApp status, you shame me. You're in the gym at 6 a.m. I know the kind of businesses you run. I'm like, oh my God. When I tell people to do these things, but I'm not doing it. So you share how you've gotten there and tell me some of your failures. Tell us some of your failures that would hopefully help somebody right now, even before they come to Rejuvenate and begin to make the right changes. So Claudine.
I think that's a really fabulous question, and more so now, Aaron, more than ever, I've taken the opportunity to start speaking more about my failures more than my successes, because I think people will learn more from those. One of the key things that I learned probably around about 20 years ago, I know I don't look old enough, but please believe me. One of the things that I learned about 20 years ago, and it was a huge mistake of thinking, a huge mistake my thinking, was that I could do everything by myself. I don't need anybody, I don't need a team, I can do everything by myself. And I recall a defining moment in my realization that my thinking was faulty. So we had run the business, we were at, a good, comfortable level. But on this particular occasion, one of my staff, she said to me, to the building that we had, I was the only key holder. But of course, she sometimes earlier than me, and she would have to wait outside until I arrived. And on this particular occasion, she was so mad for me, and she said to me, Claudine, you always talk about team. Well, you're not being a team player. You won't let us have the keys, and we always have to wait on you. And in that moment, I realized I have this fabulous team of people around me, and I'm not allowing them to use their skill in order to help move the business along in a way that would obviously add value to the business. In that moment, I went out and I got the keys cut. I'll never forget, it was the best $5 I have spent in my life. It cost me £75 to get those keys cut. And when I handed them over to her, it was almost like the passing on of the baton, because in handing over the keys meant that the pressure at me, my team is capable of doing exactly the same, if not better than what I could do. But then it also, the key here was that it also gave me freedom as an entrepreneur to take my thinking up another level. It meant that I didn't have to be at a certain location at a certain time 5 days of the week to open up my office, but I could then better use that time to do other things that would add value and longevity and a bit more robustness to the business. So my first lesson 20 years ago was about the value of team. Never underestimate your team, and allow them to help you, allow them to be your rod and your staff, allow them to staff your weaknesses. Where you may have a deficit or where you may not be so strong, allow your team to shine so that everybody can enjoy the successes together.
That's such a strong nugget. Allow your team to shine. Allow your team to shine. I'll probably come back to that, because we live in a world where it's very I, and everybody, people do not understand the concept of team. People do not understand the concept of partnership. Everybody just believes it is for me, my family, myself. But we'll hold that point. I'm sure that's one of the things we'll definitely deliberate and spend more time at Rejuvenate. Let me go to Catherine. Catherine, talk to us about failure and how failure has spurred you to where you are today. I personally, I can tell you that every time I remember you were in Ghana, it's shocking to me. It's completely, I don't understand how you got up, left the United Kingdom, burnt all your bridges, and went out there, and today, look at how successful you are. So talk to us about that.
Okay, well, there have been many failures, and
remind them you were not born in Ghana, actually. Were you? I don't think you were born.
Actually, I was actually born in Ghana. Okay. And I moved to England when I was quite young, and I lived there for most of my corporate life. So I spent 15 years working in corporate England, and I worked I started my career at Thomson Reuters, Intercontinental Hotels, etc. And for me, what was really interesting was that I had a great career. I'd say I had a great career. And I kept rising through the ranks, and I kept chasing promotion after promotion. But there was something in me that just wasn't fulfilled. And with I kept thinking that, okay, it's just another promotion. It's just another pay rise, but yet it just wasn't solving the issue. So I remember this in 2007 as part of a leadership development program. I had the chance of having a coach, because I think there wasn't really much of Facebook or Instagram. So really, I didn't really have many coaches or mentors I didn't have any actually access to any. But I had gone to an Anthony Robbins Unleash the Power Within. This was when he first started in 1993. But anyway, in 2007, I had access to a coach, and I had 6 sessions. And there was just this little spark of something was set up. Just this little spark was set alight. And my father lived in Ghana. He died in 2008. So I had the opportunity of coming to Ghana in 2009 to sort out his estate. And so I stayed in Ghana, and I was an employee, and then I set up my own business. And I realized there was one dark day in 2012 where I had a heart attack. And I survived the heart attack, thank God. But in 2014, 2:30 a.m., sitting on the floor in my office, and then that's when I realized that, Catherine, there's something wrong with you. Because I had moved to Ghana. I was running away from England because I was trying to run away from my conditions, my circumstances. Came to Ghana, and nothing was changing. I was still working 80 to 100 hours. Now I was working in a business where I wasn't even charging what I was worth. And then that's when I realized that everything needed to change. And guess what had to change? I was going to run back to England. That was what I was going to do. That was the answer. Except, fortunately or unfortunately, my British passport had expired, and the Home Office would not renew my passport. And I was being denied my right to my British citizenship. So I was like, oh my gosh. And then I had to get real. That was when it dawned on me that I had to take ownership, because life was not happening to me, it was happening through me. And I was at a point in my life where I was really, really stuck. And that was when I proceeded to hire coaches. I became a coach, and I went through many years of personal development. But that was the moment, that moment in 2014, when I realized that you can move the girl from a country, but you can't, you just had to change yourself. I had to change. It had to be an inside out job, because I could change everything outside, but I had to change. So that was it. That was it for me.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more stories at Rejuvenate for 2020. Richard, every time I've spoken to Richard, he's always talking about failures. So Richard, please share, and let's hear what's been one of your many failures that has helped crystallize who you are today, the successful entrepreneur you are today, and what can people really get from one of those stories tonight that can help them position themselves to want to be in the room with us November 15th to the 17th, where they will get the opportunity to ask so many more questions based on where they are right now. So over to you, Richard. You're on mute, Richard.
Oh yeah, I'm unmuted now.
Yeah.
I've had in one of my businesses, I was defrauded. That was a very challenging time, because then you have to go through the process of finding out what the source of the fraud was. And that's very painful. But I think it's not about whether these things happen. And actually, I think that going to court and being sued is sometimes just a cycle of business life. In fact, you get some business people that use lawyers as weapons of business, which I personally don't agree with, but some people do. So I sacked a sales team one time because they weren't performing, all 3 of them, and they obviously ganged together in the street afterwards and decided to take me to court. Completely unfounded. I'd done all the due processes and all the due diligence. And as a result, I beat them all of their counts through the courts, but I still had to pay their costs. You know, that's just a loss. And I do think that on a day-to-day basis, you might take a loss, but it's not about whether you get an injustice. It's about how you come back from that injustice. There are some people that are still living in the past because they're waiting for closure on a particular circumstance. And actually, I think that ultimately, sometimes the best thing to do is you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off, and you just wake up tomorrow, and tomorrow is a fresh day of opportunity. I always find it amazing, you know, because, you know, Mark Zuckerberg has exactly the same amount of hours in the day as me. And yet he has clearly used his hours in a much more business successful way than I have. So he was obviously doing things that I haven't done. And actually, so I try and challenge myself to only make value-based decisions. And so ultimately, sometimes the best value-based decision is you just let that one go and you move on to the next one, you know. So I think you kind of major on the majors, and then you know, if you take a hit one day, well, tomorrow's another day. And I love that about business. You know, everyone's got the same amount of opportunity, and particularly if you're in a business where you're selling. Then if you're selling, then ultimately I have the opportunity every single day to give myself the biggest pay packet of all. Because if I sell the right thing at the right price, I can make myself a lot of money. And so, you know, I don't know, I'm definitely a glass half full type of guy, you know, in terms of the fact that, yeah, so what? We took a hit yesterday, but today is a fresh day with fresh opportunities.
Good stuff. Just there. What do you know now in life, 2019, as we approach the next decade, that you wish you had known, say, 20 years ago?
Well, I've got a book coming inside of me, actually. I was joking with a friend of mine the other day. I think, and this might sound a little bit simple, but I'm going to call it the 3 people you meet in business. There are only 3 types of people you meet in business. There are people that want to take your money, people that want to give your money, or people who want to waste your time. And actually, business is all about figuring out who is a 1, who is a 2, and who is a 3. And ultimately, if you can just focus on the people who are going to give you money, then actually you're going to be really successful. My daughter actually added to that, and she said, "Dad, there is a 4th one, but it won't apply to you." And I was like, "What was that?" And she goes, "It's guys that just want to date you."
That's really good. That's really good. So same question. Let's go to Catherine. What do you know now? And you've kind of shared some of it, but what's that one thing that you know now that you wish you had known, say, 10 years ago? You're on mute.
The one thing that I know now is that you're never ever going to be ready.
Yeah.
And that you should just take a chance. If you will never be ready, there'll never be a perfect time, there'll never be perfect conditions or circumstances. Just do it.
Good
Take
stuff.
a chance.
Good stuff. Claudine?
Very similar to Catherine's point. You know, I think through the course of running a business, I've just learned the value of time and the value of balance. I think it took me a little bit of time to try to get the balance right. And when I say the balance, I mean the balance of managing my family, my finance, my fitness, my faith, and having all of those things in balance, and come into the realization that in order to make all of those things work, you need a good support network. But don't beat up yourself. Don't be so hard on yourself. We learn by making mistakes. We learn through failure. So if we learn through failure, then failure can't be a bad thing. My favorite author says, when you lose, don't lose the lesson. And so if I had known that earlier, perhaps I wouldn't have been so hard on myself, and I would have just embraced the process and just kind of taken my time and learnt more a lot quicker than what I did now.
Good stuff. Possibly the last set of questions I have for you, because I'm looking at the time and I know how precious time is for each and every one of you. So starting with you, Claudine. So we're talking about 2020. We're talking about the next decade, really. What does success mean for you in the next year? What does success mean for you in the next decade?
What a loaded question, Aaron. What does success mean? I'm actually about to go away in next week or 2 to kind of get my head around the next decade and some of the key plans that I have in place. I really want to be able to contribute on a much higher level than what I'm currently doing. And in order to do that, I think there's some mindset things that I need to be able to take up another level. I think I need to be a bit more intentional with some of the relationships, but I really want to take my contribution to society up another level, and that means in business, it means in the entrepreneurial space, it means from a financial perspective, it means on a political level, on a community level, and more on an international level. I want to be able to bring transformational impact. I've done it in communities, I've done it in the cities. Now I want to go from different country to country. So I've spent the last 3 years doing a lot of traveling. And in my travels, I've been connecting with some key people. And I really want to be able to go back and take all of the learning that I've learned in my small community, in my small city, in the island of the United Kingdom, and take that and make it fit for purpose and be able to utilize those skills to add value to other countries.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Catherine, what does success mean for you over the next 1 year, 5, in the next decade?
Okay, for me, in the next decade, well, actually in the next year, is to have more fun. To have more fun. I'm always working and just taking life so seriously. So my thing is 2020 is going to be a year of fun and ensuring that I intentionally put some fun time in the calendar. It's also really next year, I'm really focusing on more self-love, being less judgmental, just being kinder to myself really in the next year. That's for me in the next year. In the next 5 years, it's really being able to contribute at a much bigger level, particularly in my country, because I've really been playing small and I've still been finding my feet. So the next 5 years is to contribute at a much bigger level. And in the next 10 years, it's hopefully to retire sell out my businesses for millions and sit on a beach in the Seychelles, have massages all day and just ring you and say, hey, Erin, are you still working? That's my
I'm glad you're my friend.
I'll invite you as well.
Definitely. I know you would allow me to keep working. All right. Richard, over to you.
Actually, it's amazing you've asked the question because I'm kind of finding it, I'm already going through the kind of like the 2020 process now that you've started me. And I'm beginning to think that actually I've got too many goals that I've set already for next year. So I'm gonna have to do like a filtering process. Yeah, I've got there are 3 business opportunities which we're trying to build that are all quite big visions. So I'm trying to do that. I really want to prepare to take a PhD. So I'm going to try and do that in the next couple of years. That's taken a lot of preparation to do that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the last thing I want to do is have what I would call a portfolio career. I think that when you're locked into your purpose and it is in your sights, it's in your crosshairs, and all of the force of you is being driven towards that objective, I think that is the most fulfilling place to be in corporate life. You know, and I meet people who have been very successful and they're like, yeah, well, I'm with this people and these people and these people. And I'm like, was that fulfilling as the business you built? And they were like, no, they were the glory days when I was building that. So I always want to be in that place of building, you know, always in that place of building, because I think that's the most fun bit. And you've got to have fun along the way. And I think probably the thing I'm trying to teach myself is to trust the process of life. I think, you know, that's the one thing I haven't done, is to just trust the process. And when I look back, I've never lacked, never ever lacked, you know, and I'm so surprised that sometimes you get to the place where you just, you think, why am I not just trusting this process? I just really think that if I can get into my flow, everything is just gonna, all of my stars are gonna align. So yeah, so I'm beginning to think now that maybe when we're away, just listening to the rest of you, I'm going to start to make my list and maybe filter it back to the ones which I'm going to prioritize.
Good stuff. Let me just get you to also talk about your amazing career. I mean, you were in media. You're the voice on most of the TV stuff. Do you mind just sharing a bit about that for our listeners tonight, just to hear where you're coming from and how you've built some of your businesses?
Yeah, I started I graduated in media very early when there was just no one doing media at all. And I went into the film industry, which I returned to, and we worked for a lot of the film distributors. So I launched 42 movies. We launched all the Star Treks, Bridget Jones, we launched Tomb Raider and all of those. But at the same time, around the time when Kiss 100 was starting up, there were no young voices, which I had at the time. because all of the voiceovers were like, you know, these big kind of boomy voices. So I started to read adverts for people. And I'm now in the 20th year of my voiceover career, which is incredible. In fact, you probably see the microphone behind me.
Yep.
And I do about 4 a day. So it's just unbelievable. Like, and it's just been a side thing for me. It's put my kids through school. It's just been such a blessing. And I've always just allowed that to just kind of flow in the background of my life. So I do think there is a place for a second income. There really is, you know, if you can get in that place. But they say that on any one day in London, there are 4,000 voiceovers. And I've always said that actually it's not about being a voiceover, it's about being clever enough to get in that studio in the first place and get paid to do it. And so a lot of it's strategy and, you know, knowing how that works. But it was kind of different when I started, to be honest with you. It's a little more competitive these days.
Good stuff. I mean, we're definitely going to hear the full stories at Rejuvenate. I hear a few people would like to ask questions, but before we do that, I would like each and every one of you to just say one thing to everyone who's sitting down on the fence, who's on the line tonight, who has not registered for Rejuvenate. What would be the one thing you want them to be in that room to hear from you, and what will be your advice? And just speak to them directly. So let's start with Claudine.
To all of those listeners, if you haven't registered yet to attend Rejuvenate, I think now is the time. You heard from Richard and from Catherine and from myself. Time waits for nobody. And sometimes the one thing that's holding us back is fear. There's a famous saying that says, feel the fear and do it anyway. Make a calculated assessment of where you want to be. And my husband always says, if you hang with turkeys, you'll be dead by Christmas. I guarantee that if you join us on the 16th of November, we're going to shift your thinking and help you take everything up another level so that you can live intentionally and increase your capacity for more, so that whatever success means to you, then by the end December, the year 2020, you will be partway through to achieving the goals on your 5-year plan. It's important that we live intentionally. It's important that we do this, if not for ourselves, but then for the next generation. Do it for your children, do it for your grandnephews or your godchildren, but we got to do this. We've got to live more intentionally. And I think that on 16th of November, you're going to hear some wisdom keys. You're going to hear some golden nuggets of how all of the speakers, and of course our wonderful host, has lived intentionally in order to make the shifts, make the quantum leaps in life that they want to live.
Good, thanks a lot. Catherine, same question.
For me, I mean, Claudine, very nicely put. And for me, I would ask a question that, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? What's holding you back? And sometimes what holds us back is because we actually do not truly believe in ourselves and believe that the investment will actually be worth it. So what I'll say is bet on yourself, go for it. I know certainly you will walk away with some value, and that you know, it doesn't, you don't have to get 100 new things. Even just one thing that would, just one thing that would just shift your life. And I think it was Einstein that said that a problem cannot be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. And what I found that is by going to seminars and programs like this, being immersed with a different group of people who are growth oriented, honestly, the ideas just pop up. Sometimes it's not even anything the facilitator says, but just taking that step aside, the ideas just pop up. And I promise you, you will definitely get something. So bet on you, bet on you.
Good stuff. Thanks. Thank you. Richard?
I'd say, I mean, very early on in my career, a company that I worked for were clever enough to bring in very successful trainers and mentors from the United States. And it was quite an early thing to do back in the early 90s. It was quite an innovative thing to do. I practiced what I learned in those seminars hourly, like hourly. And actually it changed my business life. Like the trajectory of my business life was changed through maybe 3 days, just 3 days. And everything I do, I still practice today. In fact, I'm going to be hopefully sharing some of the techniques I learned then on this weekend. So, you know, what I would say is that my life was changed through guys and women like that, who actually were able to just come aside, take you aside, and just impart some real true maxims. You've got to study the masters. And so I've tried to study some of the successful people in business and just take a few of those practices and just apply them to my life. So, you know, what I would say is that it's an opportunity to just really imbibe other people's experience. So why would you not want it, really, is what I would say.
Thank you. And just as we come to an end, I've just been, is Bolanle on the line? I think we've got, the team has put together, it's like, once again, let me just say, I've got a very incredible team. I'm supported. A lot of all the stuff you see is my team, and that's what Claudine was talking about. They make me look good. I'm able to, I was singing somewhere yesterday till 1 a.m. and by the time I came out, I had this list of, you have to do this, you need to do this. They're constantly thinking. Around 2 o'clock, I literally had to tell Bolanle, you need to go to bed, you need to sleep. It's not right for you to be awake at this time. So I'm really blessed to have a great team in Bolanle, in Remy, some of the people you're going to meet at Rejuvenate, in Tolu. I dare confess that, I mean, Tolu edits most of the emails you get. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to sound English a bit, but trust me, my English is not the best. If I didn't have the likes of Tolu in my life, and my wife, who insists on wanting to see everything that goes out, even if a comma is out of the way, I'm in trouble. But if the emails have been good, please, the credit is not mine. It's down to people like Tolu, Bolanle, and Annabelle. So I'm not that intelligent, just so you know. I'm blessed with people like Babs, their thinking brain, their business thinking, and I'm blessed with really good people, Linda, Clement, just quite a few people that, and Desiree, who you're gonna meet at the Rejuvenate for 2020. Now the team has just told me to honor everyone on the call tonight, we have a special offer for the next 24 hours only. For the next 24 hours only, you would be able to get the VIP tickets that gives you access to the coaches. So if you know, we have a special VIP ticket, a VIP slot where you're going to have a special breakout with all the speakers and all the coaches for 24 hours only. For everybody who commits now and today, over the next 24 hours, you would get that ticket for £400 only. This offer is only available for the next 24 hours. I think they're going to send the link. I think the link is in the chat box, is it?
Yeah, I'm putting the link there now. So if everyone can just look at the link.
Yeah. So just click on the link and follow that link for 24 hours only. For the next 24 hours, that link will be available. I think there's also another opportunity. You can get a bring a friend offer. You can get a bring a friend offer for £600. So you and your wife can come. Something that would have cost you £1,000 on our former offer, you're gonna get it for £600 tonight over the next 24 hours. Come with your wife, come with a friend, somebody. Don't learn alone. If you want to go far, come with somebody. You can get that offer tonight over the next 24 hours for £600. So I think the team, I applaud the team. I would find out from them what has happened, because I'm thinking about how much we're spending. So they need to tell me how they've made this magic happen. But it's £400 today for a VIP ticket, and you can get a bring your friend offer for £600. Thank you, team. So I'm just going to give an opportunity for one or two people who have questions. How do we do that, Bolanle? I think they can raise their hand somewhere. I want to give an opportunity to two people who may have questions, which is the kind of thing.
They can just unmute themselves and speak.
All right. So if you have a question, just unmute yourself. I think Babs had a question. Babs.
Yes, I do. Good evening, everyone. It's been fantastic hearing you all. Catherine, Claudine, Richard, and Aaron, of course. Just a quick question to the other three. You're all entrepreneurs. I'm quite interested in knowing who your mentors are, especially in terms of business. Who are your sort of mentors, and do you have people you go to when you're kind of mulling over making decisions and stuff like that in terms of your businesses? Do you have people you go to for references, or what do you actually do? And do you have mentors?
Anybody can go. Claudine, you want to answer?
Hi, Babs. Great question. Yes, I do have mentors. Some of them are based in the UK, others are not. They have mentors. Gloria Mayfield Banks. She's based in Baltimore, in the US. One of the best pieces of advice that she gave to me was never take advice from people you're not prepared to exchange places with. She said to me, never take advice from people you're not prepared to take to exchange places with. And it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks when she said that, because it made me start thinking about the people who I was listening to and their end goals. And I really kind of got a bit of a backlash when I shared that with other people, and they gave me all the other reasons why it's good to take advice from anybody. But I think when we're looking at success steps or progress steps and success leaves clues, and I think I want to follow the right type of clues. I want to follow those people who've made mistakes and who have learnt from their mistakes and have been able to continue on their upward trajectory, as opposed to those people who've made mistakes and stay down. So mentors, coaches are very, very important for progress and success. Those are the hands-on ones. And I guess there are also mentors that we have from afar. So, you know, there are books, there are audios, there are people who you might listen to on social media who are you're able to kind of get an insight into their life and take some of their key principles and some of the systems that they use to make their respective business and life work. And I think that's a key thing for me. I started my business when I had a young who were able to balance everything and make it work. I wanted to hear from women and men who had families, who were in a stable, happy relationship, because I wanted to be able to have the balance of all of those things and not sacrifice my children for my business or sacrifice my relationship for my business. And I had to learn from them in terms of how they made that work, and then take the best of all of those kind of pieces of advice and make it work for me. I hope that answers your question, Babs.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Good stuff. Any one more question so that we can bring a wrap to today? I'll make any one more question. Anybody else? Anyone else?
Can I just say, Aaron, there's a couple of questions in the chat. I think we can answer those as well as we go along, can't we?
Is there questions in the chat? I think that's
yeah, it says I want to know how someone was asking how I got from.
Oh no, that's Catherine.
Oh, Catherine. Okay, I'm with you, Catherine. I'll answer you in the chat.
Hi.
All right.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Deborah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Can you just tell me, anyone? So, what's the one thing that you do every day that pushes you towards your end goal?
One thing. Richard.
Ask for the money.
Okay.
If I'm perfectly honest, I ask for the money. You know, you can spend so much time tweeting, whatever it is you do, posting pictures. How many times today? You know, I was in a room with some investor, and we were presenting something, and he turned around and he said, "Can I just ask you guys a question?" He goes, "It's 3 o'clock now in the afternoon." He said, "Talk me through from 8 a.m. this morning when you brushed your teeth to now at 3 o'clock. What have you done minute by minute to take the money from your potential customers and get it in your bank account?" And we were all like, "Wow, we've been building the product. Well, we've been coding. Well, we've been doing our website. Well, we've been doing our social media." So, no, I don't want to know that. I just want to know, what have you done to try and get the money from them into your bank account? Because ultimately, what else counts, really? Okay, I'm a little bit raw about this, but actually that's what I do every day. I ask for money. So today, my business asked for the money 186 times.
Wow. Good stuff. All right.
Thank you.
One more question. Just one last question. Anyone else?
Yes.
Hi, good.
Hi everyone. It's been amazing being on this call so far. I just want to ask a question to the speakers. It is often said that successful people or people who are successful in their career and business find it difficult to balance that with family. So I just want to ask how you've been able to, maintain the family life and balance that with your careers and businesses.
Okay, I'm gonna go Claudine. Only because I know you do it every day. And still travel around the world.
I think it's a great question, Ayo, and I think it's ever so important. So I tried to take as many lessons from people who I thought were doing well. And I also observed the way how I operate. So both Patrick and I, we were really quite blessed to be able to, we started the business before we had our children. So they were always really quite integral. They were always very much involved. They were, when we were running programs, when they had half term, there's a running joke in my family that anytime I'm looking after my nieces or nephews or any of the young children in my family, they all have to come to the office and everybody has to do shredding in the office. That's their first job, shredding, But that's what we did. We involved our children in the process of the way how we ran the business, some of our most difficult challenges. We involved them so that they could feel a part of the decisions that needed to be made. Then as they got older, and they were staying at school perhaps later, or they were doing other extracurricular activities. When I was speaking earlier on, Ayo, I don't know if you heard when I was talking about the importance of team. Having a good team around me allowed me to focus on the thing that was priority, which is my children, right? I never wanted anybody else to take them to school or pick them up from school. Between Patrick and I, we wanted to do that ourselves. The only way we could make that happen is if we had a good team at the office. So I had to make my team strong, then that enabled me to be or play the role of mum. Patrick played the role of dad. He's never missed a football game. I was banned from the games. My son told me I wasn't allowed to come, but that's another story. But it was the fact that we were able to involve them in everything that we were doing and build the team at the same time, which allowed me to prioritize my time, because that's the most important thing, right? When all is said and done, don't care how much money you've made or how successful your business is, your family is number one important.
Good stuff. Let me get Richard to also answer, just because I know you've also got a family. And
well, for me, so my children are a little older now, and they're kind of almost fleeing the nest, and it's a strange experience because no one ever told me that any preparation for this point in your life. And what I'm glad about is, number one, I realized that in fact they're only around for about 20 years before they kind of just say thanks very much, so long, and thanks for all the fish. That's the start. And in fact, that time goes like a mist. It just goes so fast that in fact you look back and I can't even remember so many periods of their life. Not because I wasn't there, because I made it a policy of mine that I would get home to see them to bed when they were younger, almost every single night, and every weekend I was home. Every weekend. So I just refused to business travel, and I set that time aside, and I have no regrets at all, no regrets about that, because I maximized the time that I had with them, and so actually there is a balance. And I think if you sow into your kids and you sow into your family, then in fact your business will take care of itself.
Thank you very much. So I want to say to Abby E, Ayo Davis, Katrina, Deborah, Fujitsu, Janet, Lees, Mary Mushokwe, Sarah, Shegun, I think Shegun's already in, Susan, Tina, Tosin. If you're still sitting on the fence, you're about to miss a great weekend in November 15th to the 17th. The information is in the chat box. Do all you can to be in the room. The greatest room you want to be in is the room of improvement. If you're not, any other room is not as important other than the room that you get the opportunity to raise your awareness, to raise your consciousness. Even just being on this call this evening has raised my awareness and consciousness. I've taken notes, and I'm going to be actioning some things straight away, let alone spending a weekend. And you haven't heard Buki Adisa. let alone spending a weekend. And by the way, Buki Adisa is the managing director of Barclays Bank. So let alone spending a weekend with these great speakers, including Buki. Myself, I'm not that important. I'm going to be taking notes as well. But just hanging around these guys would blow your socks off and increase your awareness to make sure that you can do have more in the coming year and in the coming decade. And if you're still sitting on the fence, all I want to say is this. If it is important to you to be successful in 2020, you will find a way. So if the excuse now is, I don't have money, and all that yak we say, and that monkey sitting down on your shoulders and speaking into you, if it's important to you, you will find a way. If it's not important to you, you're going to keep giving an excuse. So is it important to you, or are you going to give an excuse? I want to say a big thank you to Richard. I want to say a big thank you to Catherine. I want to say a big thank you to Claudine. Claudine, we gave you some, Catherine, we gave you some UK lights today, so the electricity didn't go. So thanks to us. thanks.
Hi, Aaron.
Yes.
Hi, Aaron.
Yes. Well, and Leah, go on.
Yeah, I just want to share the offer on the screen.
All right, go on.
Okay, all right.
So that's the boss speaking.
All right, hold on.
She's also my boss. She's very good at bossing me around and getting me to deliver things on time.
All right, well, over to you. So Bolali's just going to show us the screen.
I'm sharing my screen.
All right, so we've got the VIP ticket for tonight over the next 1 hour. Wow, okay, Bolali says tonight. Bolali, can we give them 24 hours?
We can do.
All right, thank you. So let's give them 24 hours. The offer expires 11:59 tomorrow. You can get your ticket at Rejuvenate for 2020, that link. I'm sure we've got everyone's details that we can send them this. And then the 600, bring a friend offer. Bring a friend offer is 600, 2 people sharing, husband and wife, 2 friends, whatever it is. This is £1,000. We've got a couples offer for 750, but you'll get that tonight for £600. I want to say a big thank you to everybody, especially to my speakers. I look forward to spending the weekend with you all. And everyone who's sitting on the fence, why don't you join us for Rejuvenate for 2020? Thank you for your time, everybody, and it's good night.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
All right.
Thank you. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.